Right, everyone ready?
Yeah, we've been ready for a little while.
Let's start as we mean to go on, shall we? That could be a good beginning. Right, hello. Welcome everybody to the Crown Lane podcast, Crown Lane on the Record, episode 2. Hello, John.
Hello, Lawrence.
How are you?
It's an absolute pleasure to be back.
It's a pleasure to be here again. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into our first one. I'm going to jump into what exactly
It was popular, wasn't it? We had quite a lot of feedback.
It was more popular than I thought it might be.
We thought we might be just talking to the ravine.
Yeah, just for you and me. But no, we had lots of people listen, and it was brilliant. I've heard back from people as well. We'll get onto that later. And before we start talking about AI, that's what our topic is today, I wanted to ask you, how are things for you at the studio, John? Because yesterday we had a mammoth day.
We had a big day. Yeah, every podcast we do, we had celebrate what is talked about by hosting a brilliant workshop here on the same topic. So we'll be having one of those on AI coming up as well, and the details will all be on the website. But yesterday was the amazing workshop on microphones, and we had a bit of we thought it'd be a fight, but it wasn't in the end, because we had two different microphone companies saw the advert to the workshop and both turned up, which was great. And then we were able to discuss with the people that were there all things microphones, all within 1 hour, which was brilliant. But not only that, on that day, we had rehearsals from 7 a.m. We had meetings that are going on all day. Yesterday was our busiest day here. And in fact, as the workshop finished, we had a gig here as well. And rehearsal bands in. So yesterday was a great day at the studio, and looking forward to seeing what's about to happen even today.
Yeah, it was sort of 6:30 until about 11 o'clock in the evening. Amazing, absolutely incredible. But I find it quite funny within the world of recording studios, especially our one. There's sort of two types of client that we have, and this isn't derogatory to anybody, but it's either people who say, "Oh, I've got a recording project. I'd love to come along. Probably in about 10 months' time." That makes up about 5%. And the other 95% say, "I've got a recording project." Say, "Brilliant. When would you like to come in?" They say, "Tomorrow, any good?" And, I think it's the nature of musicians to end up being maybe a little bit last minute sometimes. So you really have to be on your toes with it. And at the end of the day, it's always quite a beautiful thing, having a nice full studio, but can take you off guard sometimes. At the beginning of the week, I don't think we expected.
Absolutely. I mean, yesterday's 7 a.m. booking came in at 6 a.m. So yeah, that was quite a tight one, but we fit them in.
But it's brilliant. We love it. We love everybody who comes here, and it's really great at the end of the day to look back at those days and think, wow.
Absolutely.
Just to pick up on what you said, and to reiterate what we said last time, every podcast that we do, it has a theme, and then there is the workshop. So at the end of this episode, I'll be giving some information about our AI workshop. But moving on to that, our topic is AI in the industry of music. I think this is going to be quite interesting because we come from two different places with it. Because John, you're very much you move with the times. You're excited by new technology.
Keep going, Lawrence.
You love all these things.
Yeah,
and I can be slightly more old-fashioned sometimes. I think I do like new technology, but I've also seen Terminator 2, which AI took over the world and put us all in a very terrible place. So AI scares me a lot. So I'm hoping that this might be informative for the listener and therapeutic for me.
Great. Let's go.
So to begin with, we're talking about generative and assistive AI. What is the difference between them? And do we use it at Crown Lane Studio?
Oh, great question.
Enjoy.
Intentionally, we don't really discuss these beforehand. We just dive in so we can see where the conversation goes. But we've kind of found here that the world of AI, so it fits into two categories pretty comfortably, and there's very little outside of these two categories. And that is the assistive, which is where computers in some way, shape or form assist what you're doing. And then there's generative, which is where computers make something that didn't previously exist. And so most AI falls into these two terms. And I think, in fact, currently pretty much all. At Crown Lane, we use assistive all the time. We think it's a great place to start. We use it on, if someone's producing, we were producing a demo this week on Wednesday, and the client needed just to whack out a guide vocal to send to the songwriter. So we'd produced all the backing track. And then within the last hour, we had to say, right, this is the kind of track. We used software that has got, we used Nectar, which is made by Isotope, and they've had it out for about 2 years now, a assistive technology where it listens to the vocal and you give it a few prompts. And prompts is a new terminology really in terms of in the music world. And in fact, when Isotope came up with this software, they weren't called prompts. They were just called, these are the suggestions that you want your sound to be. So you know it's going to be a singer, and Nectar is only really designed for singers. So already the tools it needs are limited to that. And then it uses assistive technology in that it'll listen to the audio first. And then while it's listening, it runs through a list of about 12 things. And you can see them going from sort of grayscale to bold as it works down the list of this is what I'm now listening to. And I'm going to sort out that. Great, done. Then I'm going to listen to this, sort out that. And it works through, takes probably about 20 seconds. And it has listened to the audio and taken your prompts, which may be like, I'd like it to be mellow, pop. I'd like it to be for a lead vocal, not a backing vocal. And I'd like it in the genre of soul. And it will then take those prompts and take the vocal data, and it will suit a compressor to the levels that you've put in, and it will have a guess at where it needs to start. It will put some EQ on it that it thinks you want. It'll put all the effects, a bit of delays, a bit of reverbs. And for sending a demo off, my word, it just, as I say, 20 seconds, we've got the vocal ready-ish. And then from that, we can just say, that's way too much delay, or we don't want any delay on it, so we'll take that off. But we find that very useful. And I think anybody who's starting out in mixing, yes, you can learn everything. It's really important to learn what all the tools do. But in terms of that as a tool, anybody can open that straight out of the box and say, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I want. Press the buttons, feed your audio into it, and you'll get the result at the end. So that's assistive. Generative in the music world has got a long way to go. And
I think sometimes it's sort of overshadowed, isn't it? Where if you don't know too much about the world of tech, whether that's in photography or film or music, that you think you hear AI and you think that an AI tool can just completely and utterly make something from scratch and it's perfect. And it's really not the case. There's so much behind the scenes. If I can give you an example, if you take something like deepfake in film and cinema, which still isn't very good because the human eye can just tell straight away that it's not the person that it's supposed to be. But the amount of work that has to go into a deepfake to create, if you take, for example, we want to make somebody look like Tom Cruise. You actually have to have somebody who looks exactly like Tom Cruise already, almost like a doppelganger that you're filming, and then you're giving all that raw data afterwards and tens of thousands of images that you have to lay on top to get it to end up looking quite like Tom Cruise. So the technology for a lot of film is definitely not there. And I only talk about that because that's much more my background. But I interrupted you. But what you were saying about with audio and with music,
we're miles off. Generative, it's always got to pull it from somewhere, and so yes, it's got prompts. I mean, even this week we were working with some of the students that are in, and they're in the room at the moment, and we took Logic launched only 10 days ago now, 11 days ago, their AI band. So that's the bass player, drummer, and they've had the drums for a little while now, but this is like a new version of it. Bass, drums, keys, guitar, and it's great, really, really great concept. Each one needs 5 gig of data to be downloaded. So if you're downloading 5 gig of data, and then when you start reading into it, the bass player, for example, has taken they've had 8 different bass players that are world class put in all the information. So you realize what it's pulling from is a bunch of data that is already human made, already exists. So it's already capped on what it can do because it's only got what is in it that it can pull from. And that's the same with any AI. It's using some data source to create something from prompts. And that is brilliant. But it's got a long way to go. We're trying to use it at the moment for our clients who use us for their sound branding, so their sonic branding, their logos and their IDs. And the technology just isn't there. What we want it to do is for us to be able to come up with their sound brand and be able to say to a company, this is your sound brand. You love it. Brilliant. But then give them the tools for generative AI to be able to create a Christmas edition or to be able to pull out a slower pace version by putting in the prompts of this is the melody, these are the harmonies, and this is the rhythm part, or this is everything. Can you make a Christmas version? And it can't even yet quite do that. But I'm sure by the time that this is even out, that technology will be happening.
Yeah, I know. That's the scary thing, is the extreme pace of it.
It's scary in some ways, but if you choose to decide we would like to be a part of this journey and we want to be on that path, then it is exciting to be on it. We were on it with the TikTok voice. So we recorded here for months the human female, it's called Peaceful, the UK voice. So we had to train the robot, as it were. This is all the how the female voice talks in the UK, if it's giving the impression of being in a peaceful context. So to do that, we had to train here the robots who are based in other countries. So we had on the screen, we had 6 people from China, 2 from America on the screen the whole time. And the voice artist had to speak at exactly the same pace, at the same time, and at the same pitch for months on end, reading out random prompts.
Sorry.
Other prime ministers are available. And soon we've got an election.
Yay!
And the elections actually fall on the same day as we've got an event here. So that's going to be very good fun.
Yeah, that went off in a different
But
direction.
yeah, generative is on a journey. It's really exciting. We can't wait to see where it happens. It's scary if you are ignoring it or burying your head in the sand. If you think, boy, this could be really useful, how can we use it? And as I say, we're waiting for it to be at a point where we can offer our clients the benefits of it, so that if you do get your sound brand with us, you don't have to pay us another couple of £100 for us to create your Christmas edition. It's not because we want to put ourselves out of business. We want people to use us hugely. We're a business.
Yeah.
But we also want them to have the power in their hands to be able to take what we've given them and create more assets from it.
Yeah.
And rather than having to keep saying, oh, now please can we have the a more upbeat version? Or can we have a more sort of chilled version? Or we've got a summer, we've got this particular theme, we need this version. We need AI to catch up so that that can be used positively with our clients.
I like your outlook towards it, and I like your optimism. I think it's definitely needed, because if it's down to me, I just get scared. I really, really genuinely do. I end up enjoying the more sort of silly and novel side of it. I'll give you another example of AI with I'm stumbling on my words now. I was trying to remember what it's called. It's called There I Ruined It. I don't know if you've ever seen this on YouTube. It's a channel called There I Ruined It, and they make mock versions of songs using AI, which I really quite enjoy. So it'll be things like Johnny Cash singing Barbie Girl. I'm a Barbie girl, and it sounds exactly like him.
Does it?
Well, not exactly like that.
Okay, fine.
But the AI version. But then when you see the amount of work that goes into it and how many times he has to try and sound, again, exactly like Johnny Cash to start that sort of process, and then the AI section comes afterwards. It isn't just click a button and this happens. I've got a story. I'll share it a little bit later from somebody who's written in. I feel like an old radio show. Written in about this exact topic, but we'll come on to that in a bit. However, I feel like it's time for us to head to a little break. I can't remember who the sponsor is for Crown Lane on the record. We shall find out now. It's Crown Lane.
Passionate about podcasts and sound? Dive into the Sculpt Mixing course. Developed over 2 years, this online course delivers top-tier mixing tips straight from our bustling commercial studio. With guided videos, downloadable audio content, and a comprehensive handbook, you'll elevate your skills at your own pace. Visit crownlanestudio.co.uk/education and enter podcast special at checkout for an exclusive 30% discount. At Crown Lane, we help you sound better. Download now and let's get back to the episode.
And welcome back. Are we back?
No, I'm having
Okay,
water.
great. Welcome back.
I say the welcome backs.
Boy, that was a good advert.
Oh, yeah, I really liked that. Good voiceover artist, actually. Off the topic of last week. Well, welcome back. John, my next question for you is, again, maybe I write these questions. This is showing how scared I am of AI, isn't it? My question is, can AI tools ever replace humans?
Oh, I hope so.
You're talking about me in particular.
We sat outside today. We had a really lovely lunch with the whole team, and it would be lovely if the AI was still doing something inside, wouldn't it?
Oh, that's very true.
But as yet, a lot of it has. I mean, one thing we used to use drum trigger samples, and this isn't necessarily AI, but it's that technology moves on fast. And triggering drums used to be a physical thing where you'd copy a snare drum hit, for example, paste it to the channel below, and then tab it along to the next snare drum hit and paste it, and it would all do it. Now the technology within something like the Stephen Slate drum triggering, which has been out for quite a few years now, is just out this world. And that, you could say in some ways, has replaced jobs. In other ways, it's just made this process so much more a focus on the music and the art form, so that we can just make sure that the technology is doing all these tasks in the background to make sure that we can just keep our eyes on the music. And one of the reasons here we've got the room set up so that the screens and everything are to one side, but the window through to the artist is the other way, so that we can actually turn our backs almost on the visuals and on the technology. And during a session, our aim is that no artist knows or thinks about the technology. Everything always works. Everything always is fluent. So the more AI can do, the more technology can do. Brilliant.
Okay, I've got a message from Andy, who's written in.
Really? Someone actually wrote in?
Yep, somebody wrote in,
Hey!
absolutely. So just to remind people, please do send through thoughts or questions.
How do they do that?
Comments. If only I had an AI, John. You get in touch through info@groundlanestudio.co.uk, mention in the subject line it's about the podcast, and you may appear on the podcast. It was because we were talking about this one being about AI. Andy is a really amazing writer and producer, does a lot of stuff for film and television, sound-wise. And he was saying about this, and I feel awful because on our last podcast, we were talking about jobs in the industry for spoken word. I shall now read out what Andy said. I got some notes from a director for a film that I was mixing saying, can we change the voice of the voice actor on the radio that was playing, make him British, not American? Like there's a plugin that can just do that. So my first response was no. You have to get an actor to come in and redo it. And then I played the dialogue into a speech-to-text app on my phone, pasted that into an AI voice generator, chose the appropriate British voice, job done. It sounded a little weird with the annotation, but because it was on the radio and the scene in the background, it worked. However, they then, because it was being released internationally, there was some problems with that. Couldn't use it in the end. So thank you very much for that, Andy, by the way. But we were speaking last time about all the different work in spoken word, and we're kind of going back on that in this episode by saying that you can put in speech to text through your phone and get a voice come out the other end. What are your comments about that, John?
Oh, that's the question, is it? That's great. So did Andy have a question?
Or no. That was just a point that he was making.
You know, I love it. So the sad thing with that is that potentially someone has lost their job, but that's been the case since the advent of drum machines. The very first drum machine that came out, the whole conversation in the music industry was, don't use drum machines because you're going to put drummers out of work. We now, that was the late 70s, early 80s, 90s, 2000s. We're many decades on, and we still have, as I say, yesterday morning, 7 a.m., we had a drummer who was in here desperately rehearsing for playing at the show Wicked in the evenings. I don't think drum machine would be they could have used a drum machine years ago on Wicked, but the whole thing of what that connection with real instruments does means that there's still work in that. I don't believe this is the end for voiceover artists, but I do believe that more people will be creating more content because they can use free, cheaper AI versions of things. And like that, the solution is so much quicker. With the Musicians Union, they have rules on how many people you should be hiring. So if you've got a string quartet, we often record string quartets, but we do a thing where I've got friends at the Musicians Union, and I'm sure if they heard this, they would think that, I hope they'd agree with me. We don't always hire 2 violins to put the string quartet down. We'll hire 1 violin and viola and cello, and then we'll ask the violinist to then double up that line on top. That is putting one person out of a job in many ways, but also in terms of budgets, we're working on such a tight budget where the music industry at the moment is bringing in such small returns on recorded music that working in recorded music, which we do, we have to have a competitive edge as well. So in terms of voice recording, it's important that we're not just thinking, we want to stand up for voice artists And then as a business, we end up going under and not providing a service that is value for money to our clients. We need to make sure that what we're providing remains ahead of the curve and making sure that we are always providing something that people actually want and need to a level that is okay. We were talking the other day about mixing. And when you're mixing, there's never a point at which the mix is finished. There's a point at which the mix is ready for that particular application. So, for example, a demo mix in particular is never finished, because a demo is... all it's got to do is give an impression of what the song will be like, not a finished mix. So you are leaving everything unfinished to a certain extent with the demo. But the mix is, in inverted commas, finished because the task is complete. So with something like using generative AI on a text-to-voice, if the outcome is purely to have a voice that then enables somebody perhaps with a disability, that means without that AI-generated voice, they wouldn't have had access to it at all. And then that's brilliant. The tool works. If you're trying to create an art form, or the other day I was at King's Place up in London for a brilliant presentation of people's voices, and it was all about the human voice, and they were projecting people onto muslin that was stretched from ceiling to floor, the width of a person, and then the person was projected on, and the speakers were above each muslin around the room, and you never knew which one would light up next, and then a different voice would come from different places. The whole interaction there of the art form, it would have had I'd have had no human connection with it if it wasn't a human that had made that was telling the real life stories of each of those. So I don't think there's I think it will mean that more content is made, and we're in that situation at the moment where our smartphones just have so much content that we are filled with just noise. And I'm sure there's a revolution coming for that as well. I'm not sure that children who are born now are going to be sitting scrolling on their phones, watching the same tat that most of us spend our time watching.
Well, I hope not. Speaking
So,
as someone with 3 young kids.
Yeah. No, I agree. But I hope that the content or the revolution that comes in the future will place more value on art, which is what every spoken word artist is doing. They're creating art.
And actually, maybe I can fall into this trap as well sometimes, but with new technology that comes out, to not think sort of so black and white of, oh, it's going to be all that or all this. You make a really good point about it sort of assisting in some places, it won't work in other places. The point you made about drum machines and drummers, because there's still drummers that actually exist to this day, surprisingly. 2 of them sat in this room right now, actually. Really good point. And it's not so black and white, but I think when you look at things pessimistically sometimes, as I do with some tech, that you end up, that's your default of, oh, it's going to take over the world. I hope you're right. Anyway, tips and tricks section now, John. Although before tips and tricks, there is something that I did put at the beginning on the thought of AI, which I forgot to get you to speak about, which is your recent chat with an AI ChatGPT, I think it was. I wanted people to hear about what you told me when you were asking it about your name. Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah. Well, I've got 2 stories about ChatGPT recently. One is also relevant to somebody else in this room. But I asked it. I just said, ChatGPT, can you guess my name? That was all I gave it. I just said, can you guess my name? And in 3 prompts, it guessed my name. And all I told it was when I was born, and then it made a suggestion. And I said, no, I'm a male. And so then it said a name. And I said, no, far more boring than that. And then it said, John. And I said, oh, do you think John is boring? And then I got a very long apology from ChatGPT for offending me.
Yeah.
So, within 2 prompts, it guessed my name. That is true. But the other story from ChatGPT was...
I don't think your name's boring, by the way.
Good.
So do you prefer me over the robot?
At the moment, yeah.
Oh, good. Carry on. Sorry.
Today.
Okay.
The other story with ChatGPT and using AI is that all AI will give you is exactly what it has discovered already. So it's only ever a retrospective. It's never looking ahead. So we needed to advertise a new post here at the studio for marketing. And so I ChatGPT'd, how do you get the best person for marketing in your small business? And it gave me all these suggestions of where to market, how to market, using your brand, making sure they get to see inside your business, blah, blah, blah. Make sure you expose the advert everywhere. And every single thing in this 20-point list, I did the opposite of, just to see what would happen. So in previous times when we've advertised for jobs, I've advertised it far and wide, and we've spent over 1,000 on one particular advert that we then found a route from somewhere else. Didn't spend any money on this advert. I did it in Comic Sans font because it said make sure you use your comic company branding. I put the advert not even straight, I put it one key. I then photocopied it so it was really poor quality and then shared it once. And we think we might have got the right person from that advert.
Do you think?
Well, we'll find out.
It would be awkward if they were in this room, wouldn't it?
It would. Oh my word, there she is.
Hi, Alex. Alex is currently filming us at the moment. We're very, very happy to have Alex on board. Alex does all the marketing now for Cranland Studios.
Absolutely. So had I followed those steps, I don't think Alex would be in this room. And I think the thing with AI is that it is very good at telling you what it thinks you want to know and what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
It cannot tell you how to break the mold. And if it does, it's only telling you that from its previous training and its previous sources of information. Mm-hmm. So I would say, yeah, use it. And we use it assistively all the time. If we're writing an advert or something, we'll make the content for the website. I'll finish it and then I'll put it through ChatGPT and I'll say, can you make sure that this meets the audience that I'm trying to meet? Mm-hmm. And it's brilliant. And it's really, really, really helpful for that kind of thing.
Good. Okay, that is a good tip and trick that I ask you about. It kind of ties in with the one that I did want to ask you about, which is just thinking more about music. How can people use it from home if you're doing sort of home recording stuff? If you've never used it before, is there anything that you can advise, any particular programs or tools that you can advise that people might want to have a little look at?
I'd say everyone's nicking everyone else's ideas at the moment in terms of software companies. And the person that's done the most nicking, I'd say, is Logic. So therefore, that's a good place to start. If you look at Logic software, they've got some really, really good AI stuff there. The generative stuff, we did some tests with the students who are sat in this room right now, and they took the same prompts and put it in, and it churned out very similar results by putting in the same prompts. So the risk of it is that you, across the country, listening to this, would buy Logic and use the same prompts, and people's music is going to gradually start sounding the same. Mm-hmm. And so there's a risk there from using those. But it's also got some brilliant prompts that you can then use it to trigger ideas and then you can put your creative juices to work. But I think writer's block is actually, as much as it's a hindrance, it's also a gift. So for anyone in the creative process, whether you're a writer, musician, songwriter, lyricist, writer's block is the point at which you go, I want to quit, I want to give up. And then you push through that to something far greater. And AI doesn't let you do that process. So yeah, let it give you ideas, inspiration, stimulus for things. But in terms of actually creating art, you've got to move beyond that for that to be the case. So that's the generative side of it. But the assistive side is so good. So if you're doing a mix in Logic at the moment, it's got a mastering bit that you can just let it master your stuff using AI skills. So this is so useful. If you're mixing and then you want to know, gosh, what's this going to sound like when it's finally released, once it's already gone to mastering, you can then just put on the assistive, what's it called? Do you remember what it was called? Mastering Assist. Seems like a sensible name. And you just select the region. And we were messing about with it because all the tutorials on it, because it's brand new, it's only just out. If you select the entire song and you do Mastering Assist on it, I don't know whether it's taking the mean, median, or mode of the different type of average of the song and then putting the mastering on it. So what we did is we selected just one bit of the song, the loudest bit, and the bit that was the most full, and then we tried that on other bits. And actually what it did with the song, the data it gave us back, and you can see it on the visualizer, it was saying, you've got quite a lot of bass energy there, so take it down, and quite a lot of top end energy there, so take that down, but the mid was really missing. So what we then did was then used our human skills and said, actually, we agree with what it's told us, and then we changed the mix to be almost the inverse of what the mastering had to do. So we removed some of the bass, we cleaned up the bass, we cleaned up some of the top end, we gave it more mid-range energy. But then the interesting thing happened. The assistive mastering absolutely didn't know what to do. And the end result of that, when we tried that, it sounded, so Cam was on this bit. When we then put it back on and said, right, now we've done the fixing, AI, you do your mastering of this. When we then click bypass, sounded worse with the mastering on than off. And so it's very important to make sure that you're using it, but you're using your ears far more as well. Make sure you know all of the stuff that it's actually giving you, because even on the mastering assist, unless you understand what LUFs are and you understand what peak gain you're looking for, and you're looking what your peaks are, whether you're on -3, -1, what your targets are, what your LUFs are, you don't know what the information is that it's telling you. Even you don't know whether it's right or not. So it's very worth doing our mixing course, and you'll get all the downloadable data on that.
I see. I like
absolutely. Did I just squeeze that in?
Has it got a name?
It's Sculpt.
Sculpt. Yes. Oh, yeah, I think I've heard of that actually.
Great.
On this note, actually, about mastering with AI, we had another message come through, and this one was over the phone. So we're really catching up with the times now.
Love that.
With a studio user, well, actually, someone who listened to the podcast, we spoke afterwards, called Levi. And I hope you don't mind me using this, Levi, but we were having a conversation about AI, and he said about mastering, and he said it in such a lovely way, which was, although the technology may eventually get to the point where a human is no longer needed for it, talking about the mastering process, there will never be a time when a human is not needed for the whole process, particularly the monitoring and the overall approval, which is exactly what you just said, which is the case with almost all technology, really, isn't it? There will always be a need for humans to interact with it at some point. And what Levi said kind of made me think of sort of factory line. You know, you can have all this incredible machinery that costs 200 million quid, but at the end of the day, you have to have humans there at the end of it, inspecting every single thing that comes through.
Well, I think it's like our brand, like for any company or anyone, any artist out there, you've got your brand guidelines, you've got your things that are there to support you and make your brand work for you. They are there for your tool. They are there to support you and make you and you as an artist elevated. As soon as technology becomes the thing that we are serving, that is when the problems start to arise. And
That's the Terminator 2 thing.
Well, may well be. I don't watch films.
I know you don't.
I don't even know what that
is. It's such a waste of me ever saying anything to do with film, because you've never seen one. I just don't get it. I don't Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. Terminator. You guys get Terminator 2, right? No. We got work experience in. Anyway, right. Well, forget that. I hope the listeners know what I'm talking about. I'm sure they will.
Yeah, that was it.
We really derailed that, didn't we?
I was just saying, comparing it to like a brand asset, that our brand rules are there to support our brand and our business. If sometimes they feel restrictive, rather than just going, oh, this is holding us in a straitjacket, we have to think, why is it? Is that a good reason that it's holding us there? Or actually, is that a reason for us to change the brand rules? And the same with AI and all the technology. Is the technology actually beneficial to what you're trying to do? If it helps, brilliant. If it's stopping the artistic and creative flow, then I would say that is the point at which we stop using it.
Great. Right. Well, that is that. We're going to finish on our recommendations as we normally do. I've got two. I've got a global one and a local one. Global, big picture. This is quite a commercial thing to talk about, actually. However, I went to watch at Wembley the other week, Andre Rieu, and I just had one of the best nights of my life there. I quite enjoy classical music, and I just think he's absolutely brilliant. I went with my mother-in-law. She doesn't like me calling her the mother-in-law because I didn't marry her daughter. However, we're very, very close. We had such a wonderful evening together. If you ever get the chance to see Andre Rieu in concert, please do it. It was really, really good.
Brilliant.
And my local one, on the theme of orchestras, pub orchestra, which is John, be nice. We do it in Sutton. We do it in Metronome, which is attached to Crown Lane Studio. You bring an instrument along, we will have fun. It's a bit of a community music night. And it's free as well. Free tickets are available at metronome.life or on the Facebook group under Pub Orchestra London. Congratulations for holding your breath for that long, John. Well done. Do you have any recommendations?
I do. On the nights that Pub Orchestra's
Don't
on...
go to Lawrence's Pub Orchestra.
Let me give you some other suggestions of how you can spend your time. No, it's brilliant.
Person.
And it sells out every month. If you do want to go to Pub Orchestra, make sure you are there early, because the tickets are gone pretty much soon after the previous Pub Orchestra. So
some people like it.
A lot of people do like
Good,
it.
carry on.
There's I don't know, my local thing. I think it's about getting into the music scene locally and loving the art for what it is. And something I noticed recently is my feed, I don't know about other musicians' feeds, they're filled with people who's shouting, come to my gig, go to my gig, download my song, da 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 da. I would just say, do it. Go to something. I just thought, I'm going to go to this thing. I know the person vaguely, but I wouldn't normally just go along to it. But I thought, I'm just going to do one thing and start liking people's posts, encourage them online. And when people seem really confident, it's often an illusion of what's actually going on in the reality.
Totally, yeah.
And so my recommendation this week, this month, is to support an artist either online or in the flesh.
In the flesh being the more important side of it, I would say. Nice. Very good. Well, next time on the next podcast, just to let you know, there will be the old tractor starting. There will obviously be a workshop where we're going to be thinking about all things AI. That workshop is on the 20th of June. Be very similar to the one that happened before. The tickets will be available very soon. Have a look in the
Metronome.life website. They're all on there.
And on the link description for this episode.
And by the way, the workshops are brilliant. So you shape it. The people who come get to shape it. So we had a rammed studio yesterday, and everyone at the beginning said, this is what I'm looking to get out of this. And hopefully by the end of it, I've got nods in the room.
Oh, very good.
From most. Come on. Yeah, I've got nods and a thumb up.
Double thumbs up, actually.
Yeah, that's good.
So 20th of June will be the next workshop. We'll be doing all things about AI. I'm sure John will get up some lovely AI bits and pieces.
We'll be playing with Logic as well.
However, the next podcast that we're doing, we're thinking about binaural audio. And John, you're not going to be here for that one because I'm going to be speaking to Chris. John will not be here. I'll be back. Terminate, thank you very much. Looking at a blank screen over here.
No, but I
John.
won't be back. That was why I couldn't answer.
On that note, thank you very much, John.
Been a pleasure.
Thank you very much to St. Cecilia's and all the lovely young people we've had in the last few weeks for work experience. Thanks to Alex over there with the camera as well.
Woo!
For doing everything amazing with our marketing. See you later, John.
Bye.
Bye.